Hi, friends, and welcome back to 5 Minutes with Faith in Motion. I'm Lori Bell, and today I want to take you back not just to a moment in history, but to a movement, the early church. Because when you look at how it functioned, it's so powerful. And honestly, it also makes you stop and ask, what did they have? What did they do that we might be missing today? So let's start here. Before the early church ever did anything, they received something: power. In Acts 1:8, Jesus tells them, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you." And this is important. They didn't rush out and try to build something on their own. They waited. Because the early church wasn't built on strategy, it was built on the Spirit. Ordinary people filled with God's presence, doing extraordinary things. And that same Spirit is still available today. Which means we're not meant to live this life in our own strength either. Now, here's what happened next. They didn't just believe the same things, but they lived closely together. Acts tells us they shared meals and they prayed together and they supported one another. They weren't just attending something once a week. They were a community, a family. And I think this is where we feel the tension today. Because we can be more connected than ever right now, right? But still feel completely alone. The early church reminds us that faith was never meant to be lived in isolation. We need people who encourage us, people who pray with us, people who remind us of truth when we forget. That's how faith grows. And then there's Peter. I love Peter because this part always gets me. This is the same Peter who denied Jesus, the same Peter who struggled, who failed, who doubted. And then, filled with the Holy Spirit, he stands up and he boldly speaks. What changed? It wasn't that Peter became perfect. It's that he became dependent. Bold faith doesn't mean you have it all together, but it means you trust God enough to just step forward. And God still uses people like that today. Then we see something powerful happen. It's miracles, but not for attention, not for recognition. In Acts 3, Peter says, "Silver or gold I do not have, but what I do have, I give you." And a man is healed. But the miracle wasn't about Peter. It pointed people to Jesus. And that's the key. The early church didn't try to draw attention to themselves. Their lives pointed outward. And when we live like that, serving, loving, helping others, people don't just see us, they see Him. But it wasn't easy for them either. The early church, they faced pressure almost immediately, opposition and criticism and resistance. And still, they didn't back down. In Acts 4, they basically say, we can't help but speak about what we have seen and heard. That's boldness. Not loud, not aggressive, but just steady boldness. They cared more about obedience than they did about approval of others. And that challenges us a little, doesn't it? Because it's easy to live our faith when it's comfortable. But what about when it's not? And then this is one of the most beautiful parts. They lived with open hands. Acts says there were no needy people among them. Think about that. If someone had a need, someone else just stepped right in. They shared, they gave, they noticed. It wasn't just generosity, it was responsibility for one another. And when people saw that kind of love, they were drawn to it because it was real. And that's how the church grew. Not through perfect people, not through the polished systems, but through everyday lives filled with the Holy Spirit, connected in community, living with boldness and loving with generosity. And people noticed, because real faith is hard to ignore. So what does that mean for us today? It means that maybe we don't need to reinvent everything. Maybe we need to return to what mattered most: dependence on the Holy Spirit, genuine community, bold, everyday faith, lives that pointed to Jesus, and open-handed love. That's church, friends. And it still works. So here's your faith in motion step this week. Instead of asking, what should I do differently? Ask, where can I live this more simply? Maybe it's inviting someone into a conversation. Maybe it's praying with someone instead of just saying you'll do it. Maybe it's stepping out in courage when you feel unsure. Maybe it's meeting a need right in front of you. Because the early church wasn't complicated, but it was so powerful because their faith was in motion. Thanks for spending 5 minutes with Faith in Motion. If this encouraged you, please share it with someone who needs it. And if you'd like to keep growing with us each week, be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, the same Spirit that moved then still moves now. Until next time, God bless.